Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over my list of injuries that I've had ever since I started racing motocross. In my last video where I was walking around in that park telling you guys about my plans for 2020 and what's been going on in the past couple weeks, I noticed a comment from someone who mentioned something about how it looked like I was limping, and so that kind of gave me the idea to go over all the injuries that I've had in motocross ever since I was just a little kid, because that's something I haven't really gone over before. You guys know I've had a bunch of knee issues, but I haven't really talked about any of my other injuries that have been going on. So while I'm up here in Ohio and it's snowing out and I'm not really riding, I figured it would be a cool opportunity to sit down and talk you guys through it. But before we get too far into this video, there's a couple things I want to mention. One, I thought it would be really cool to start an RM Fantasy SX group for all you guys to join in and compete with me and a bunch of my friends and family. So if you guys are into the whole fantasy supercross thing, head over to rmfantasysx.com and search for, I'm pretty sure if you just put Jaywalk in, it'll come up, but I think it's officially called Jaywalk's 2020 Fantasy SX. I just created that yesterday morning and I think we're already up to like over 450 members or something crazy like that. So really sick that a bunch of you guys were into that and signed up and went into the group. As you'd expect, I'm going to be doing some cool giveaways such as some signed jerseys and race plastic and stuff like that at a couple of the rounds. I only have so many jerseys and stuff to give away, so I think what I'm gonna do is do the giveaways at like the special event rounds. For instance, I'm gonna give away this Alias jersey at round 1 because Anaheim 1 is obviously a big deal, so I'm gonna sign it. I raced a couple pro nationals in this thing, so it's a pretty cool jersey. I'm gonna be giving that away to whoever wins at Anaheim 1. And then after Anaheim 1, I think I'm gonna stick to doing the giveaways at the big events like the Triple Crowns and the East-West shootouts, and then obviously the finale in Salt Lake City. So there should be like 6 or 7 giveaways throughout the series. Hopefully you're watching this video early and Anaheim 1 hasn't happened already, so you have time to go over there and sign up. So definitely go do that. It's free to play. My entire family's in there, along with a bunch of my friends and some other cool YouTubers. So yeah, go over there and sign up and you could possibly win some cool stuff. So hope to see you over there, and I'm sure you guys will smoke me because I am terrible at fantasy supercross. Nailed it. We'll just go ahead and leave that right there to entice you guys. Oh, you can't even really see it. Whatever. Anyways, another thing I want to say really quick is thank you guys so much for all the support on the last video. I never thought a video of me just walking through the park talking about my past and my future would be such a hit with you guys, but all the comments have been super positive. It's been getting some good views and good thumbs up and just really good positive feedback all around. So definitely seems like you guys like that kind of vloggy type vibe, so maybe I'll try and make an effort to do more of that style of video. You guys will have to let me know, but definitely seemed like you like that, and really appreciate the support on that one. It was a kind of touchy subject and a bit of a hard one for me to make because it delved deeper into like my emotions and just all the stress and everything I've been going through over the past couple years, and so just to have the response that you guys had was really cool to see, because I was kind of worried that you guys would be like, oh, you're a wuss, dude, or whatever. So it's really awesome to see all the positive feedback, so thank you very much for that. But yeah, we'll get on with the rest of the video now. When you take a look at most pro motocross racers, or not even professional motocross racers, just motocross racers in general, they typically have a long list of injuries, and I've been pretty lucky that I've, for the most part, kept them pretty minimal. However, I definitely have had my share of like really gnarly and devastating injuries, so I kind of went with the quality over quantity route. I don't know if that's good or bad. Ideally, you wouldn't have any injuries at all, but the few that I've had have been pretty serious. So what I figured I would do is just start off when I was a tiny little kid and just list off my injuries in chronological order so that I hopefully don't forget any. And so let's just jump right into it. So the first one up on the list technically wasn't a motocross injury, but a few of you have actually pointed it out in videos, and that is my middle finger right here. Obviously, I'm not gonna isolate the middle finger because yeah. But yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit weird looking. The nail always looks like it's really long, and if you compare it to my other middle finger, like you line up the knuckles, you can see that it's a little bit shorter than my right middle finger. That happened when I was 2 years old, and it wasn't actually a motocross injury, but I figured I would include it in here anyways because we're just going over my whole injury list. And that was actually just a heavy object fell on it when I was 2 years old and kind of smashed the end of my finger off. And I don't think it actually broke any bone or anything, but it just kind of grew back in a little weird. So yeah, now you guys know if you see my middle finger in some videos and you're wondering why it looks so strange, that is why. Fast forward 3 years, I was shredding on a PW50 when I was 5 years old at a track in Tiffin, Ohio called Sandusky Valley Riders. They had this front section that was like 2 pretty good sized tabletops. They were like really tall, but they weren't super long. And they had 2 of those in a row. And then there was a big single onto a tabletop that was like kind of the same shape, but it just had a cutout after the first single. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit of a savage on my PW50, and I thought I was cool that I was able to almost clear the first 2 tabletops. So every lap I would come around, just hold it wide open and huck those first 2 as far as I could. I would come up a little bit short and kind of like bounce, but felt cool anyways. And yeah, I don't know what was going on in my 5-year-old head, but after I went over the second one, I thought that I had only gone over 1 so far, and the single onto a tabletop was way too big for a PW50 to clear or even make it onto the table from the single, and I sent that thing like wide open on a PW50. I must have realized at the last second what was going on and like hit the brakes, because I went straight over the bars and just faced into the tabletop super hard. Must have landed right on my left collarbone region, because yeah, I snapped that thing pretty good. There's no like gnarly bumps or anything. You can kind of see just a little bit of a deformity right there. It didn't require surgery or anything. Just had a nice crack all the way through it. But for 5 years old, that was pretty gnarly. So next injury on the list was when I was 7 years old on my KTM 65. And this was the injury that has definitely been the most devastating in my life and still impacts me every second of every day now in my mid-20s. It was at a track called Scenic Highlands in, I think, Ohio, but honestly that was the last time that I went to that track, and I'm pretty sure they shut down by now, so I don't actually remember exactly where they were, but it was called Scenic Highlands, and I remember the crash like it was yesterday. It was just this slight downhill slope into a 180-degree left-hand corner, and there was only like one really good rut in that corner, so everyone was funneling into it. And as a result, it was getting pretty beat up going into that one rut. And before my moto, I remember my dad telling me, stay to the right, stay out of the bumps, and then just cut over and get into the rut at the very end. And of course, me being 7 years old, I don't know if I just didn't hear what he said or just forgot about it, but I remember going directly through the rough stuff. And I wasn't a very skilled rider at this time. I was kind of a gooner. So I had no business being in big braking bumps at any sort of speed. The first couple braking bumps were pretty chill, but I got a little bit sloppy in them. And as I started to get a little bit sloppy, I saw like the 5th braking bump was like 3 times bigger than any of the other ones. And as soon as I hit that thing, I went into that mode, like, you know that part of a crash where there's so much motion blur going on that you kind of just like almost black out, and you're just along for the ride at that point? Well, that's exactly what happened, and I guess as I was coming down, I must have locked my left leg out, because as soon as I hit the ground, felt immediate pain in my left leg, and I couldn't really get up. Had to have the EMT guys on their quad come and get me and bring me back to the van. And we had no idea at the time, but I actually completely tore my ACL all the way through, and did a little bit of damage to my meniscus as well. But of course, you know, me being 7 years old and my dad being a doctor, he had never seen an ACL tear in a person that young, and pretty much nobody had seen one that young. So we never would have thought that it was an ACL tear or anything. Like, the chances of that happening were so small. We just kind of wrote it off, and there was a little bit of swelling, but I could still walk on it just fine. It didn't really hurt too bad. I mean, if you've ever done your ACL, you'll know it doesn't really hurt that bad. So we just kind of wrote it off, and we were like, all right, whatever, you just sprained it or whatever. And for the whole next year, I just went on with the rest of my life, went to school and everything, kept riding, and every now and then I would be like, oh man, you know, my knee kind of hurts today, like especially after a long day of riding or playing on recess or whatever. I would tell my parents like, yeah, my knee just kind of hurts today, and everyone was like, it's okay, like your knee's fine, don't worry about it. Until a whole year had passed, and I was getting up off of the couch to go to school one morning, and my knee completely locked, and it was like the worst pain of my entire life, and I knew something was wrong in that moment for sure. So we went to my orthopedic surgeon. We found out that my ACL had been torn for a whole year, but that wasn't really the main issue. The main issue that caused my knee to lock up was the fact that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with an ACL, but if this was your knee joint right here and it bends like this, your ACL is what keeps it from moving back and forth. And since I didn't have an ACL, anytime I would bend my knee, my bones could be a little bit out of whack, and it would just crunch that little bit of cartilage called your meniscus that sits between the bones. And so what had happened is I absolutely destroyed my meniscus, and one of the pieces had like flipped over, and that's really common in a meniscus tear, and that's what caused my whole joint to just lock up and was causing all that pain. So yeah, when I was 8 years old, I had to go in and get a full ACL reconstruction. Luckily, I was young enough that I didn't really realize how gnarly that was for someone my age, but later I found out that my orthopedic surgeon was a little bit hesitant to do it on me because in order to do that surgery, they had to drill through my growth plate, and being that I was only 8 years old, obviously I wasn't done growing yet, and they were worried that if they damaged my growth plate enough that my leg would never grow properly and I would be a little bit deformed. Luckily, I was too young to even understand any of that, and I just told them, yep, let's go for it, because the only other option was to put me in a brace until I was like 18, no sports, no motocross, no nothing, and then do the surgery then, and that obviously really would have sucked. But luckily, my orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Fragamini, is a boss, and everything went smoothly. 8 months later, I was back on an 85 and shredding until I tore it again a couple months later. So I was 9 years old, already 2 ACL replacements under my belt. Those 2 years were definitely really difficult. From the time I was like 7 until I was 10, I was in a wheelchair for like half of that time basically. Which is why I was never a stud on little bikes or in the amateur scene at all really, because I was hardly riding at all and had so many injuries, and as a result of all those knee injuries and being in a wheelchair for so long, I got pretty heavy, and unfortunately my meniscus was so destroyed after that that it still gives me problems to these days. I've had another 3 surgeries since then, just cleaning up my meniscus every now and then, because you know, at any given moment throughout the day I could just be getting up out of a chair and I'll get another little tear in my meniscus and my knee will lock up and I have to go in and get it cleaned up. So yeah, that one's been haunting me for like 17 years. A lot of arthritis has built up in my knee just because of my lack of a meniscus. So definitely a full knee replacement is gonna be in my near future, unfortunately, but it's pretty crazy how something that happens when you're 7 years old can affect your life so much like that. I mean, there's not a single second of the day where I'm not thinking about my knee because it hurts. Every step I take, I have to be a little bit careful. I mean, there have been times when I'm just walking through Target getting groceries and I twist wrong and I'm on the floor just in searing pain and nothing I can do about it. Definitely sucks and has pretty much changed my life, but it's just what happens in our sport. You gotta be ready for it, and just gotta put your head down, tough it out, and get through it. So after that whole fiasco with my knee, I think I was 12 years old when I broke my ankle on my 125. Had another rider just come straight in and T-bone me from the side in the first corner, and my ankle was kind of at an angle with the rest of my leg, so I knew something was definitely not right there. And again, it was one of those situations where it was really close to my growth plate, so they were worried about how my leg was gonna grow properly for the rest of my life, because I obviously still wasn't done growing at 12 years old. So that one took a really, really long time to heal. Especially, I kind of made things worse because I tried to put a garbage bag around the cast and tape it up really good so that I could go swimming, because it was actually at Redbud over 4th of July weekend when I did this. So it was like the dead of summer, and I wanted to go swimming with my friends, taped up a garbage bag around my leg but didn't get it sealed enough. A bunch of water got in and completely made my cast all soggy, so they had to take it off really early, and afterwards they took some x-rays, told me that my leg wasn't quite as straight as they would have liked to seen it, but whatever, happens. But yeah, like I said, that one took a long time to recover. I think it was like about 3 or 4 months before I was actually like walking and doing normal stuff again. So after my ankle though, that was actually the last bone that I've actually broken. Ever since then, like I said, I've had a couple surgeries just cleaning up my meniscus every now and then when that tears again. I had another surgery to take out some of the hardware in my knee that was giving me some issues later in life, because I'll show you guys real quick. And that's where they put the screw in, and just over the years, as I was growing, the screw migrated all the way down to here, and it was giving me some issues like with my knee braces and stuff. So this is the scar where the screw went in, and that's where they had to take it out. I think that was actually just like 2 or 3 years ago that they took it out. But yeah, pretty gnarly. I've been pretty lucky that I haven't had many head injuries. I have been knocked out a handful of times, but over the years those memories have come back, so it wasn't like a really bad concussion or anything. I have had some pretty bad back issues ever since a crash that I had at a Pro-Am back in like 2013, as I was trying to get my pro license to go racing some pro nationals the next year. There's actually a video of it over on Dirt Bike Addict's YouTube page, and so I'll link that one down below and you guys can go take a look at that. It's actually the crash that's in the thumbnail of this video, so it's a pretty gnarly one. I know you guys love it when I say I'm a taller dude, dude, but back issues are definitely pretty common in taller riders, and that crash really hurt my back. I actually thought I might have broke it in that crash, but luckily I didn't. But yeah, ever since that one, I've been having some bad back issues, but it's been getting better as I've been getting stronger and strengthening it over the years, so it doesn't really bother me too much anymore, but that was definitely a pretty bad one. A couple honorable mentions. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I actually have a kind of a weird scar right between my eyes. That was from, I can't remember if it was an area qualifier or a regional qualifier on my 250, I think it was 250B class at Redbud one year. Got a good start and was running like 4th or 5th, I think, and somehow a rock came off of the dude's tire in front of me, punctured straight through my lenses and completely ripped my face open. Still finished the moto. I'll put a picture up right now. You can see me riding around with blood just pouring down my face, but yeah, finished the moto, went back to the rig. Luckily my dad's an ER doc, so he sewed my forehead up, and then went back out for my next moto, made it to Loretta's. But yeah, I think that really about does it. Like I said, haven't had a whole huge gnarly list of injuries, but the injuries that I have had have just had weird consequences, or they happened when I was really young, and that made difficulties with the healing process. But yeah, that left knee injury, the ACL replacements and everything has been really tough to deal with. Something that definitely gonna be with me for the rest of my life. It's definitely haunted me for the past like 16, 17 years or whatever. And it's really tough. If there's one piece of advice I could give you guys out there, especially your parents, if your kid's complaining about something, no matter how small it is, go get it checked out immediately. I think if we would have gotten my knee checked out the next day, we would have found that my ACL was torn, would have been able to get it fixed, and my meniscus would still be intact, and I probably would have no issues for the past 16 years. But just the fact that we let it go for a whole year definitely made things really gnarly. And so yeah, don't try and be a big hero and be like, oh, I'm too much of a man to go to the hospital or whatever. Go get checked out, because you never know what's going on in there, and you may end up regretting it for the rest of your life. Take it from me, guys. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for me. Make sure you head over to rmfantasysx.com and join the group, because that's popping off pretty big right now. Got some big names over there in the group with us, so yeah, join in so you can win this jersey back here and some other stuff that we're gonna be giving away throughout the year. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Later.